Hi, everyone. Welcome. Dominic here with Smart Catholics, and glad to be joined today by Sister Sydney Moss. Welcome, Sister. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Dominic. Glad to be here.
We're going to have a fun chat learning about Sister's background, her story. She did a trip to Central America, and we'll get to that in a second. Smart Catholics Mastermind is a live series to meet the minds and hearts of Catholic creators. They devote their time and talent to mastering their vocation so that you can live a fuller life faster. Sister Sydney is a Salesian Sister of St. John Bosco. She met the Salesians when she was a VIDES volunteer. We'll get to that in a second. And she spent 2 years living with the sisters in Central America. She's now the director of the volunteer program and accompanies young adults as they prepare for and go on mission. So before getting into all of that and how that works and what that is, Sister, take us to a moment, maybe that first mission trip and how you encountered the Salesians, and what is that story? Because that sounds like it's a cool one.
Yeah, so I actually had first gone on mission trips when I was in high school, and it opened my eyes to the reality of how so many people in the world live. And I
Mhm.
saw the peace and joy people had, and I said, I want that. So after high school, went to college. After college, didn't really feel right to leave the country. I did some domestic volunteer programs, but then that burning desire came back, and I just really wanted to be able to go to another country, live with the people. So the opportunity arose to go to El Salvador. And honestly, at first, I wasn't too excited because I thought, oh, I want to go on mission. I want to go somewhere exotic, adventurous. And I'd been living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And
Okay.
I knew a lot of Salvadorians. I was working with them. I had some friends from there. And I'm like, that's not exotic enough. But then I realized, well, actually, wait a second. I do speak Spanish. I'm familiar with their culture now and their food. Maybe that would make sense. So I headed down to El Salvador for a year. And at the end of that year, I was not ready to come back because I was actually at the time discerning my vocation.
Okay.
But I was a very reluctant discerner. And
Mhm.
so, what really drew me to the volunteer program was the fact I'd be living in community with the sisters in El Salvador, and I would be the volunteer, not the discerner. But I'd have that
Mhm.
inside look of what religious life was all about. And so, at
Mhm.
the end of the year, I just wasn't ready to make any lifelong decisions. So, I decided to go back for a second year
Okay.
with the real aim being, okay, once I am ready to make a decision, I'll come home. And so
Mhm.
that came about 8, 9 months into my second year there. And I just finally felt peace. And honestly, I think what gave me the most clarity was on Friday, Saturday nights, I was living at a home where there were about 30, 35 girls who lived with us. And
Okay.
on the weekend nights, we'd get together and watch the Disney Channel, of course, in
Oh, cool.
Spanish. And so I would be there on a Friday night sitting with these, preteen girls watching the Disney Channel, and I just didn't want to be anywhere else. I was as happy as could be. And it really just helped me to realize, I can give myself, I can give my whole life in service and to really love the young. And so that's kind of the short version of what eventually got me to enter the convent. But it was really a result of those 2 years being in El Salvador that revealed to me the truth of my
Mhm.
vocation.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm really curious to ask. You said there came a moment of peace.
Mm.
Um, was it around spending that time, and why was that spending that time with those girls like meaningful to you, and what was that peace moment that really became clear for you?
Yeah, I don't know if there was like finally one exact moment, but I think what happened over that amount of time, at first going down there, this happens a lot, being the Americans going to another country and
Right.
seeing so many kind of injustices and just like,
Mhm.
why should they have to live like this? And I remember getting in some arguments with the sisters who would tell me like, well, Sydney, they can't go to college. That's just not their life. And I'd get so upset, but why not? Why can't they? And so there was a lot inside of me, not like I thought I could go and change their world, change their reality. But what I think eventually happened over that time was I was able to see, it's not what I can do for these girls. Like, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go back to the States one day. They stay here. And so I
Mhm.
finally realized, that what I can do is just be somebody for them. And that
Mhm.
relationship and just that loving adult model, because a lot of them didn't have those positive adult models in their life. That's what I realized, that that's what they needed, and that's what I could do. I didn't have to physically really do much. It was who I could be. And so I think it took me that long to realize that. And once I finally came to that realization, it's like God was finally like, okay, that's it. It's who you can be. Now I'm going to show you who it is I need you to be, not what you can do, but who I need you to be.
That's powerful. That's okay. So out of that, then those moments, that direction, you're now the working with VIDES, and you're the director of the volunteer program. So what is VIDES? What does it do? And then what do you do with it?
Yeah, that was probably one of the biggest surprises of my young religious life. So a little over 2 years ago, I made my perpetual vows, and the sister in charge, asked me if I could take over, be the director of VIDES, which is the volunteer program that I was a part of with the sisters. It stands for Volunteers International for Development, Education, and Solidarity. But much shorter is VIDES. And it's the volunteer organization our sisters have all over the world. So our main office is in Rome, and the sisters are in over 90 countries throughout the world, but there's probably around 40 some countries that actually have a VIDES program. So in most countries, the volunteers are local volunteers. So they are the young people, the high school or young adults who are working with our sisters in the local mission. But how we have usually run our program in the US is that we prepare young adults to go to other countries and volunteer with our sisters or our priests. Some volunteers do choose to serve with us domestically, but the majority choose to go overseas.
So you get overseas volunteers coming here as their mission field? Okay.
Actually, in January, a young woman from Mexico will be coming here. Another young woman from Belarus is supposed to be volunteering with us. So yes, we do. We have volunteers that want to come to the US also and volunteer with us. Yeah. So it's really amazing. It's really a beautiful program because some volunteers go short-term mission. The shortest they can go is 2 months. And some go up to a year. So actually the majority right now, we have six volunteers on mission, and the majority are going for a whole year. Only a few of them couldn't commit to a whole year. And so it's amazing, the experiences they have, the people they meet, and just really the clarity it brings them on their vocation. And maybe not in the big sense of marriage, religious life, priesthood, but as far as the purpose that God has for their life. Because without a doubt, every single one of them comes back just with so much more clarity about what it is that they're supposed to do with their lives. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
It's really important to them. What are some things that they do when they're on mission? Like, what are they helping with or volunteering with?
Yeah, so it depends on the location. So most of the volunteers will be in maybe a school or what we would call a boarding school. So it's not that it's an orphanage. The girls or the boys do have families, but their families can't provide for them. So they live with our sisters or our priests. And so usually the volunteers will be there to really assist, accompany them, because they live there 24/7. And so it's the sisters and priests, it's a lot of work for them. So they end up, the volunteers do a lot. That's was where I was in a situation like that. It can get quite exhausting, but in the end, it's always worth it. But then also, like right now, we have 2 volunteers in Scotland who are doing a retreat ministry. So the sisters have a program where young adults, as a team, they go to different parishes and schools around Glasgow, and they put on retreats. We've had a volunteer in Nicaragua the sisters had a daycare, but then every afternoon they had a soup kitchen and they served meals to all the young people in the neighborhood. Another mission in northern Guatemala where it's really, really rural, real mission. Our sisters visit some 40 different communities spread out through kind of the jungle there, ministering to them. And so the volunteer accompanied them and kind of did some different workshops for the people. So it depends where they go. Africa is finally open again after the pandemic. So a few volunteers are about to go to Africa this January, and it'll be more of a boarding school type situation and a clinic. We do have some volunteers who are nurses. They want to serve in a medical capacity, and Kenya is one of those places. They do have 3 clinics. So we have a young woman who's a nurse who's about to go there and help out in a clinic. So all kinds of different possibilities, and literally almost every country of the world. It's pretty cool.
Do you travel yourself, or are you mostly desk bound and kind of making it all happen?
I wish. So because I just became the director right before COVID, I have
Okay.
not. However, in the next year, yes, there are some opportunities because every 3 or 4 years they have the International VIDES Congress. So next July, that'll be in Poland. So that'll
Wow.
be really great to get to meet the sisters and young people from all around the world who are part
Mhm.
of VIDES. And then next year is VIDES+USA's 25th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So we're planning an alumni reunion mission trip. So
Mhm.
hopefully next October, in a little under a year, we'll have a little get together in San Antonio where our provincial house is, and then whoever is available will take a little short-term mission down to El Salvador. So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
hopefully in the near future there will be more traveling overseas involved.
Mhm. Oh, that's amazing. How did the pandemic impact the missions and everything? Did it slow it down, or just everybody had to hunker down for a while?
Yeah, so when the shutdown started, we had only 3 or 4 volunteers that were on mission. So they did have to come back because of the biggest concern that the U.S. was closing its borders. So we wanted to make sure everybody got home before
Mhm.
that happened. So everyone got back, and it was hard, especially for those who had to come home because
Mhm.
they had been preparing for so long to go and they're there and then they have to come home. It was really hard for those who are on
Mhm.
mission. But amazingly, throughout the pandemic, I feel like there's been maybe even more interest in volunteering because I think some young adults have had more time to really think about what's important and what they want to do with their lives.
Oh,
And
amazing.
so in January, so normally we do a new volunteer training in January and June every year.
Mhm.
And so last year, the first year of the pandemic, obviously we didn't have one that June 2020. But in January 2021, I had 5 young women who wanted to go on mission, and I found places for them. So we did our training virtually. We did it on Zoom for 2 weeks,
Okay.
and then all 5 of them got to go. One stayed in the U.S. and 4 of them went international. And then this
Mhm.
past June was able to do a training in person. And there's 2 still waiting to get to their mission sites because of pandemic. It's been slowed down, but eventually I think in January they'll get to go.
Nice.
So yeah, and then this coming January about to have another training for new volunteers.
Mhm.
So the numbers they're not really high right now as far as volunteers, but they're good considering what's
Wonderful.
going on around the world and just people's financial situation also. So yeah, I'm very pleased.
That's incredible. And
Uh-huh.
real quick shout out to Evelina. Pardon me, Evelina, I'll probably not get your name right, but she's excited about your visit to Poland.
Yes.
Pietruszczyk, I guess, Pietruszczyk. So thanks for watching, Evelina, and anybody else. So, sister, how can people get in touch with you? Like, if they're interested or they want to share this with someone, how can they get in touch with Vides?
Yeah, so our website, VIDES.us, so VIDES.us, has all the information as far as what we do, who we are, how to apply. And I would have the email to be able to get in touch with me, director@vides.us. We usually just start with a simple phone interview, see what people are interested in, and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And then to to wrap up, I always like to ask if you had 1 minute to share your favorite message to Christians and Catholics everywhere to the world. What would you like to say?
So I think for me, a theme that has been recurrent in my life for many years when I was first doing a domestic volunteer program really comes from St. Therese of Lisieux, that my mission is to love and to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of at the core of so many problems in the world and just individually, there's so many people suffering from depression, anxiety, self-doubt. But if they knew how much they were loved, it would make all the difference in the world. And so lately, the lyrics from a song from many years ago, the guy who was in charge of music in my parish when I was in high school, the lyrics keep coming back to me, just this one line: "We've got to love somebody to heaven." And so that's kind of, it took me back to that. My mission is to love and to be loved, and so just that idea, we've got to love somebody to heaven. Like, we don't have to speak the words of the gospel all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
we can love. Um, so I think for me, that's the most important thing. And even today's first reading, it's all about that. And Paul to the Romans, and like, our one job is really just to love each other. And obviously Jesus tells us that, right? Love God, love one another.
Right.
So that for me is the most important thing, to love somebody to heaven.
I think that's beautiful. Thank you, sister. And then for those who enjoyed this episode, or you're watching it live or catching the replay, please share it with your one friend that you think would like to see it too. And then come and regroup with us in the free Catholic community on smartcatholics.com. We are free of trolls and ads and toxicity. We are faithful to the Holy Father, Pope Francis, and the Church. And we're committed to a culture of kindness and learning. Does that sound like you? Well, then come and join us. Thanks again, sister. God bless everyone.
Thank you, Dominic.